Angus ABL Pedals here with what I'm hoping is the start of a little series of videos in which we delve into pedal circuits and what makes them individual from each other and some of the technology behind them, but without getting too technical. Right in front of me, which I've not got a top-down setup yet, but I'll get that, is an LBP-1 which was first introduced by Electro-Harmonix and then has been used in many different circuits onwards, as it's a very simple amplifier circuit. In fact, if you've done any electronics education, you'll recognise it as a common emitter amplifier. And it was first introduced by Electro-Harmonix in either the late 60s, early 70s, I'm not 100% when, I probably should have looked that up, but oh well. And I think the story goes, it came around from when they were trying to work on the Big Muff, and when it came to the testing stage, it was far too quiet for the guitar signal. I think the engineer had not realised quite how little output an electric guitar actually has, and then this was tacked onto the end of it, as you can find it in an electronics textbook, in which as an additional amplifier stage. So this is a recovery stage basically in the Big Muff from Electro-Harmonix as well. And I think the story goes people started using them as channel switchers and whatever. But the point I wanted to get across in this video today is that Electro-Harmonix managed to get 3 different pedals by basically changing a few parts, and we're going to hear all of them today. So that was it in the intro there as well, but first I want to let's have a look at the circuit itself and sort of explain a little bit of the technology behind it. Okay, so in front of me I've got the circuit here, and it will go up on screen just now. Basically there isn't a lot to it. It's 4 resistors, 2 capacitors, a transistor, and a potentiometer which forms the volume pot. Your guitar signal comes in, passes through the capacitor, which shaves off a bit of the highs. You don't want to amplify the whole signal when you're amplifying things, so often you want to shave off a little bit of the highs. Passes through these 2 resistors, but I'm not going to go into too much detail of what they do, other than they set the levels and they help with the gain. There's other people on YouTube that can explain that much more eloquently. We want to just hear it, see it, and get used to it. And then it exits the transistor here and passes through the second capacitor, which does much the same as it does on the input. Nearly every circuit has an input and output capacitor for these particular things, because they also filter any DC that gets into your AC signal, your guitar being an AC signal, and then it hits the volume pot, which is a volume pot. And it's actually these 2 capacitors here which these Electro-Harmonix in their wisdom swapped out twice actually to make both the treble booster and the screaming bird. They basically give them a smaller value, for a lack of a better way to say it. The smaller value tends to emit less bass through, and vice versa. The bigger value, the more bass. It doesn't always work like that. It can be very dependent on how the rest of the circuit works, but for the most part that is actually how that works. So that's pretty much it. There's not much else to say other than let's hear how it actually sounds. There's a quick note of this is the circuit on a breadboard. I've not got my top down sorted yet, so it will look different in future, but anyway, you'll get to see it in real time. But yeah, guitar goes in here and then goes to the transistor, to the volume pot, and out again. So this is it in its kind of stock arrangement with the 100 nanofarad capacitors. But first of all, in true YouTube style, here's my clean tone. I'm just using a Telecaster and an orange Micro Terra. And yeah, let's hear this thing. that's the volume at around 11 o'clock. I'm also going to say, forgive me if there's any noise in the signal here, because this is a breadboard, so all the connections are loose and power supplies and what have you. I will try and improve that. There's not much else to say other than it makes it louder, but there's a lot of gain there. There is quite a lot of gain for well, in terms of an amplifier, there's probably not a lot of gain, but in terms of the way it interacts with your guitar and your guitar amp, like it's slamming the input on my little microtera there. It's pretty powerful, like. So there's probably a varieties of ways you can use this. You can use it like it's basically being used now to kind of slam the input of your amplifier, in which to distort a single channel amplifier. It's a clean boost if you want to go for the solo. You want a bit more oomph. You know, you're quite happy with your tone and you just need to stick out a bit more. It's nice, kind of fat and rounded in that respect. And yeah, what else can you do with it? Oh, if you've got a pedal in front of it, you know, you're rocking away on that, you're quite happy with your overdrive. If you stick that in the front of it as well, much like you would with an amp, you're gonna distort the signal even more, because you're cascading this hot signal into the amplifier as well, which is quite a useful use for it. A lot of people do that with overdrives, but you could just use it with a clean boost basically. So that's it on full. So that's kind of it. So this is the treble booster cover. And so you might be wondering, well, what's the point in a treble boost? Like, you're just going to get loads of high end. But I suppose that's kind of the point. It would, back in the day, a treble boost would help you kind of stick out with the rest of the band, kind of thing, especially when you want to go to the solo. I think they really came into use in the 60s when, if you listen to like John Mayall and the Blues Breakers, Cream and that kind of early British sort of stuff, where blues rock and rock, where they were starting to overdrive their amps, British amps like an AC30 or a Marshall, they had quite a dark sound, and they, especially when they were driving them hard, so a treble booster kind of really, along with that kind of dark drivey sound, and the treble booster really made a sort of singing sustain, which is what they were wanting. So that's a treble booster. But they went one further. I put an even smaller capacitor on the input and output and made the Screaming Bird. So let's hear how that sounds. Talk amongst yourselves. So yeah, pretty honky, pretty screaming bird-like. But I bet if I put this in front of a fuzz, it will go absolutely crazy. Maybe I'll do that just now. So as a final experiment, I'm going to stick my trusty Big Muff in front of this with a treble booster just to see what sort of noises we can get out of it. And in future, obviously I'll go delve a bit further into the controls, but since for now this is just a, there's not much to this one, I'm going to keep it quite simple. So, got the Big Muff in, apologies for the noise. Now let's stick a treble booster in front of it. Screaming bird indeed. So you get the idea. It can be used in a variety of ways as both a clean and even an overdrive. It's for one knob and a really simple circuit. There's a lot of uses there, and as I've shown, there's a number of ways you can modify it as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's the first of, well, I hope to be quite a few. I hope I've not come across too strangely. If you've enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, subscribe, all that stuff. Every little helps basically. And yeah, this was a little experiment, a delve into the LBP-1 and what makes it tick. So until next time, keep on rocking.